Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Carrie with bluescitypickin, and if you're new here, I'm a part-time reseller that goes around to garage sales, estate sales, thrift stores to find things to flip for a profit on eBay. And only eBay. I am a single platform seller because I do this part-time. I just have to work with what works for me. This is Ching number 73. This is what sold the 4 days between October 13th and 16th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. I sold 25 items across 23 different orders. I had a couple of multi-quantity orders, which is great. Love those. I had $647.64 in gross sales, and so that includes shipping and taxes. The price I agreed upon with the buyer, $466.39. I had $109.84 into these items, and my gross profit was $268.85 or a 57.6 margin, which is great for me. Average profit per item was $10.75. Pretty good, pretty good. 19 of the items that went out the door were bread and butter at a profit of $7.61 each, and then I had 6 that were above $15 each on average at $20.71. I had one thing that I lost money on, but I've had it for almost a year, and so I was more focused on just recouping my investment. And then I had something that I made $32 on. Let's see, I also had some things that sold the same day that they were listed, and also had something that took 505 days to sell. So, had that going for me with an average of 144 days. If you look at the whole week, I had about $1,300 in sales, about 50 items, and about $560 in profit, which is great. Right on my goals. My goal is to list 35, sell 35, and make roughly, if I get about $15 in profit off of those, I'll make about $500 in profit a week, which is great supplemental income, and I'm super happy for it. Let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing was this pair of J. Crew mules. They were women's size 6.5, brown leather slip-on. They were clogs. I thought these puppies were going to sell. They are in style. I did pay $10.99 for them in October of 2024. So I had an offer for $12 that I just went ahead and accepted. And so I lost $1.33 after 339 days. I think it was the size that got me on those. If I found that style again, I would probably still pick it up, but I would want it to be in more of a widely accepted size. Next item is a Vera Bradley Glenna shoulder bag. It was black and had swirls on it. I actually picked this up at the bins when I picked up a bunch of other Vera Bradley, but when I got it, I didn't realize that there was more wear on the bottom than I originally anticipated. If I had seen that, I would not have picked it up even for $1. But I did go ahead and list it. I didn't want to redonate it, and somebody offered me $6.50, so I made $3.64 after 133 days. Damaged Veras do still sell, but just not for the profit I would have liked. Next item is a Disney's Christmas Collection 24 karat gold on brass piglet ornament. I had $2 into this from an estate sale back in February. I got an offer for $9, which I accepted, and it profited $3.86 on after 211 days. I think this one I got a little bit of a ding on shipping. I had flat rate shipping. I was charging $4.75 in flat rate shipping. This thing weighed like 2 ounces, but it was going to California. It was over $5 and something to ship it to California. I was like, that's bananas for a 2-ounce item, but I know they just implemented their peak pricing, so I'm hoping it goes back down in January. Otherwise, it's going to start to limit where people are going to want to buy my items from. And then I may end up having to do calculated if that flat rate lightweight shipping doesn't jive anymore. All right, next is a vintage Serena black swimsuit, tank inlay mesh. It was super cute. I thought this thing was adorable. I paid $3 for this at a regular Goodwill back in April of 2024. Yeah, I've had this a few days. It finally sold for $10, and so I made $4.02 after 505 days. That was my longest tail item in the store this week. Glad that it's gone. Next item is a vintage lot of sewing items. There was bias tape, zippers, all kinds of stuff in there. I paid 94 cents for this lot at the Goodwill back in March. It sold for $8.96, and so I made $5.12 after 185 days. I just marked this down because it wasn't selling. There was some new old stock. I have a pretty decent luck selling like sewing notions in lots, and so I'm not sure why this particular one didn't move, but I'll keep picking them up, and it's fine. All right, next up is a lot of 3 vintage original manufacturer Atari replacement parts. These were just these little tiny like rubber band looking things. They were called the drive belt counter. I don't know what it is. I just listed it. Had $1 into it from a Whatnot show last December. Sold for $8 and a penny, and so I made $5.51 after 309 days. Next is like the teeniest of tiniest little accessories from a vintage Ken doll. This was the Open Road Map, number 985. Had $2 into this from an auction win back in August. It sold for $10.80, and so I made $5.70 after 8 days listed. Next up is the first multi-quantity order. This is also some vintage original manufacturer replacement parts for Atari. These were joystick controller replacement parts. It's like the little rubber that sits at the bottom of the joystick, and like as you move it, it flexes with it. I had 50 cents into each one of these, so $1 total. They sold for 8 and a penny each, so $16.02. And so I made $14.34 off of both of these together after 307 days. Next item was giving me fits. It was not where it was supposed to be in my inventory, and I tore everything apart everywhere I have toys and plush, and then I finally found it after probably like 20 or 30 minutes. I was this close to canceling it. This is a Bleacher Creatures Nashville Predators, which is a NHL team mascot. His name is Nash. I had $1.49 into this from a local Goodwill back at the end, or the bins back at the end of August. Sold for $10.75, and so I made $7.24 after 45 days. Next item is a vintage Kitty Craft flip up interactive learning center with colors and numbers. I had $2 into this. I think it was from a church yard sale last October. It sold for $14.40, and so I made $8.13 after 372 days. Next is the other multi-item order. This is 2 different lots of 3 pairs of vintage baby shoes, so 6 pairs total. The buyer offered me like $12 for each bundle. I had $1 into each bundle, so $24, $2 cost of goods, and so I made $16.30 on the 6 pairs together. And they sold the same days I listed them. So if you see vintage white leather baby shoes, apparently don't pass them up. I did pick these up from an auction lot back in September, where I just bought like a tote of vintage baby clothes. I think I paid like $2 or $3 for the tote. So I've already made good money on this, and then there's a lot more that still is going to sell out of it. So don't overlook vintage baby clothes if you don't mind the tediousness of looking through them, listing them, and all that jazz. next is a fun one. This was a vintage Dynasound cassette tape storage rack. It was a carousel, so you could twirl it. I paid $5.19 for this at a local Goodwill in September. It sold for $21.60, and so I made $10.69 after just 30 days. I've had pretty decent luck selling like vintage tech storage. I sold a teak CD case back in, gosh, it was probably over the summer at some point for pretty decent money as well. So don't overlook vintage media storage. Next item is a set of Pottery Barn Antique Mercury Mini Ornaments. This was a set of 12. I paid $2 for these at an estate sale bike back at the end of September. They sold for $16, and so I made $11.08 after 16 days. Next was a very quick sale. This was a Lands' End women's size large, so 14 to 16, red down-filled lightweight quilted puffer vest. I picked this up for $6.20 at a local Goodwill just last week. It sold for $23, and so I made $12.56 in just a day. Next is also a fun sale. This was a picked up on Style. This was a Mud was the brand. If you're a Y2K kiddo like I am, you know what that is. Well, I was a little older than, well, not really. I don't know. This was a Mud Y2K dress, women's size large, brown plaid jumper, cottage core. I did put clueless and preppy in there as keywords, which I think helped sell it. I paid $7.14 of this at a regular Goodwill back in July. It sold for $26.10, and so I made $14.48 after 82 days. I just picked up at the bins last weekend another one that looked kind of like this. It's a St. John's Bay like zip up plaid jumper as well that I'm excited to get listed. See how it performs as well. Next one was also a Style pickup. This was a vintage corduroy blazer in a size extra large or a 16. It was tan camel. It had pockets. I put academia on there. I paid $3 for this at an estate sale back in September where I picked up 3 different corduroy blazers. This one sold for $24.30, and so I made $15.30 after 15 days. Next was also a style-based pickup. This was a vintage Susan Bristol 1X, like women's size, lavender purple sweater. It was floral embroidered. I put beach and resort on there. I had $1 into this from the bins back in July. So that shows in July I was already picking up stuff for sweater weather. It sold for $21.60, and so I made $17.40 after 92 days, which is fascinating because the next thing I sold, I basically made the same profit, but like the original cost of these things is like so diametrically opposite. I can't even like fathom how I made the same amount on these, but it just shows that reselling is a crazy, crazy business, guys. Next one is an Eileen Fisher sweater. It was women's extra large. It was a cashmere cotton blend. It was chunky knit, lag-in look. I paid $5.99 for this at a regular Goodwill in October. It sold for $26.10, and so I made $17.79 after 38 days, which I'm super happy with. So Eileen Fisher, incredibly expensive brand retail, cashmere blend, made $17.79. Never heard of it. Susan Bristol purple embroidered lavender sweater made $17.40. Make it make sense, y'all. I ain't complaining. All right, next up is a vintage 1980s Walls was the brand, blizzard proof down insulated beige puffer coat. I put jacket in there too. It was a size medium large. I did pay up for this. I paid $11.64 for this at a regular Goodwill back in January. It sold for $35.10, so I made $18.48 after 274 days. It was a cute jacket. I'm not exactly sure I'm going to assume that I just bought it too late in the season and folks had already gotten their outerwear for the season, but who knows. Next was a really quick flip and a new bolo for me. The brand is Astral. It was the Loyak M men's navy water shoes, size 11, athletic minimalist sneakers. I picked these up at a regular Goodwill just last weekend for $10.50. I had them listed for 49, got an offer for 42, which I went ahead and accepted and made 23.23 in just a day. So Astral, check out that brand. These were in really nice condition. So yay. And then last but certainly not least was my best sale of the week. This is also a pair of men's shoes. This is a pair of Sorel Madison Chukka boots, cashew tobacco color, size 10 and a half. I did pay up for these $13.21 back in December of 2024, so I've had them a while. But they finally sold for $53.05, and so I made $32.08 after 291 days. I don't mind holding on to something if I'm gonna make 30 bucks. It doesn't bother me too much. So made $268.85 in profit, and then I also recouped $109.84 in cost of goods to put back into the business and buying more inventory. Where did things come from? These 4 days that sold, 70% of the profits came from Goodwill items, 11% from estate sales, 8% from auctions, 7% from whatnot, and 3% from yard sales. Clothing, shoes, and accessories back in the lead as far as the genre that sold. That was 73% of what I sold over these 4 days. 10% in collectibles, 11% in household goods, and just 6% in toys. So, clothing, shoes, and accessories. Thank you. I appreciate the profits this week. I will take them and use them to buy more things to sell. I am working through my death pile slash profit pile right now. I don't have a big one, but I did have a couple of large auction lot wins over the last couple of months that I still have not completely dealt with because they required cleaning or something like that. So that's usually what slows me down and why I don't always buy some of these things sight unseen, because I don't really have a ton of time to contribute to like stain treating, cleaning, and washing things. So usually I'm buying stuff and listing it. So, yeah, that's what slows me down. Is there anything that slows you down or keeps you from dealing with your profit and death pile besides the fact that just shopping is way more fun than dealing with that? I am pretty disciplined when it comes to, okay, you can't go out shopping this weekend because you got stuff to take care of. So, anyway, I hope that your sales are going well. And if you like this kind of content, I do put out 3 reseller videos a week covering what sold and hauls of what I am currently picking up. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.